some people are watching that. We think you made the right choice. So very, very honored to have Ursula from Facebook here with us today. And I'm Rob Castaneda, founder and CEO from ServiceRocket. This is our home. So thanks for spending time with us here. So why don't we take a seat?
Sure, thank you.
And so Workplace was announced
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Everything is a blur for us as well.
It is.
And
2 weeks or 3 weeks, yes, it feels 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago. So so what we wanted to do was begin a meetup group on the platform. I don't know if anyone here is already using the platform, or is
raise your hands,
or is desperately trying to get on the platform and in the waiting list. And we can help out with that. I've given my card to a few people.
Who's using Facebook? There we go. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're somewhat in the platform.
Yeah, and so I wrote an article on LinkedIn late last week, which spoke about my journey and my father moving from El Salvador, and combined all that together with really the beautiful thing about this platform is everyone has a smartphone in their pocket, and most enterprises deal with IT from a head office point of view and really forget about the blue collar workers in the company and those that are out in the field. And a big revolution that we see happening is, wow, there is finally a solution, a product that allows a CEO to put their arms around the entire company and get input and interact with that. But we'd love to get your thoughts, and you're the person from Facebook that everybody wants to hear from. So.
Sure. So I'll introduce myself a little bit. So Ursula Debris, I joined Facebook literally, this is my third week.
Wow.
But I'm not new to collaboration. So a little bit about me. I'm from Peru originally. So I really connected with your article in terms of the journey. I didn't go all the way to Australia. I went to Canada when I was 17, and there I actually began my career in technology from an early age. And I joined Salesforce in 2005. So I was an early user and kind of pilot user of Chatter when Salesforce kind of start thinking about doing that. Then I joined a company called Yammer that was acquired by Microsoft. And that then became part of Office 365. And that's when I worked with customers to truly begin the conversation around collaboration at large scale. And I remember when Facebook launched Facebook at Work, previously known Facebook at Work. And we looked at that and I'm like, at Yammer we used to pitch, this is like Yammer but for work. This is like Facebook but for work.
Yep.
And fast forward, Workplace, the team was put together to actually really put a business case to launch it more formally to the world. And I really wanted to be part of the team. I'm super passionate about transforming the way we work. I really believe that, being dynamic, using mobile to communicate and connecting people to each other, and kind of connecting the personal way we discuss things to the way we want to work. It's incredibly powerful. And I know Facebook really cares about usability. I mean, if we look at Facebook, 1.7 billion users in Facebook, right? We have 1 billion users. Right, 1 billion users in WhatsApp. We have Instagram. So the insight and learning that we get from that applied to how we can transform the workplace it's quite amazing. So on that note, I know one of the questions that probably people like, why launch now, right? You've been in beta for quite some time.
Yeah, a couple of years, right?
Yeah. And I think now is we wanted to learn for a long time. We wanted, as a company, wanted to learn, and the adoption actually was really positive, and the feedback was really positive, and the iteration and innovation of the product. The feedback from the market felt like, okay, we are ready now to make it widely available to the rest of the world. So really that was the catalyst for us to launching.
Yeah, and some of the data is quite staggering. So I think if you look on the Apple App Store and look at the most popular apps, and you take out the games, and you take out the stuff that Apple makes you download, then you know what's left in the top 10 is you know a big chunk of that. Half of that is Facebook, right? And what you don't see in any of that list is the traditional Microsofts and Oracle.
Right.
I don't go home wanting to use the Oracle mobile apps, right? And so that's really telling, right? So my son is 11. You know, he's on mobile device. He doesn't send me email, right? Yeah.
And if you see kids now, they just chat. They use chat a lot, and I find communications very visual. We're very visual communicators, whether we want to do through video, or we share GIFs for highlighting a statement, or we want to share pictures, images, right? That's images say 1,000 words. So I think the medium really facilitates that type of communication.
Okay, so I'm kind of assuming that people have looked at Workplace website and have some idea of what's there, but also, if there are any questions, feel free to put your hand up so that we can steer the conversation and make sure that we give everyone as much value and answer some of those questions as we go through.
Yeah.
So an interesting thing for us, so we've been on the platform for a couple of months. We basically let people sign up, and within 2 days the whole company was on it, right? And the interesting thing is that a lot of chat solutions, because we're techies, so we use everything.
Yeah.
But you have this kind of two-layered approach of here is chat, which is like Messenger, right? Work chat. But then there's a concept of posts, right? Which is everyone's familiar with in Facebook.
Yeah.
And that allows kind of microblogging and information sharing with pictures. And for years, I've been trying to get my leadership team to blog and share information.
Right.
And it's very difficult. I mean, all my executives are laughing at me. Like, I'm not going to blog, right? But it's really easy to grab a picture, post a kudos, recognize people in the team, and do that. But what similar experiences would you have, internally at Facebook?
Oh God! So Facebook has been using Facebook for the last 12 years to get work done, and as I joined Workplace, the team, I remember I wrote an article when I joined the Yammer team. Oh, and I thought like 5 weeks was a super fast onboarding process. This is my 3rd week, and I literally onboarded even before I joined officially the company, because they added me to a multi-company group as an external user. So I was able to get access to information, relevant information as a new hire. And when I came on board, I literally just immediately joined the groups that my boss was related to, that my peers work with. And in a matter of days, I was able to just get the gist of what were the top initiatives that we were focusing on, who the people that I needed to know were. And it's also the spirit of Facebook, right? In terms of, you don't have to have it perfect. You have to have an idea and iterate on it, right? And move super fast. So we know that's the approach, and the platform really supports that. Whether you want to go slow or fast, there is the groups that we form or that I have access to facilitate that conversation. So literally in 3 weeks, I've already launched a couple of projects and initiatives.
So how much internal email do you send?
Literally, very zero internal emails, except for calendar invites where we have customers, external customers.
Okay, so who here loves email? Right.
Or email trees, right?
Or email, right? I hate email. And so we run on Google Mail, and being a data nerd, I use this thing called Gmail Meter. I don't know if anyone uses that. It's an add-on for Gmail, and at the end of every month, they kind of say, congratulations, like you've wasted half your life on email, right?
Really?
and they tell you how many emails, where they're from, how many thousands, right?
Right.
And literally in my first full month of using Workplace, my internal emails went down 28.74%.
Wow.
Right? That's
amazing.
data, right? That's internal email.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect it to be that much, and my view of it now is that's how I communicate internally.
Yeah.
And I treat email like foreign affairs department, right? If I need to talk to people outside the firewall,
right,
then I go into email and do that. And prior to this, I was training my admin on how to organize my email, and we just gave up. We don't need to do it because most of the tasks are either external for an email, or it's just internal things which are very quick. You touched on a very powerful feature, which is multi-company groups, and that's a big area where workplace is different than public Facebook. And maybe you want to explain a little bit more about multi-company groups, and I think there might be some questions on that as well.
So the feature multi-company groups really is designed to bring folks outside of your immediate company network. Let's say that you want to do a focus group with marketing and you want to bring a set of customers into a private discussion. So it's a public in the sense that you can invite other people outside of your domain, but it's private in the sense that only those that are invited can see and share the information within that environment. So that's the gist of the multi-company group. So you can create several multi-company groups. Let's say you have a customer group where you're interacting with your key customers to get feedback on certain initiatives that you have, or you have your vendors, right? Partners. We have a company group for partners. So I think that's the beauty of it's so easy and available.
Yeah, so we have a multi-company group between us, and
it's great.
I remember planning the trip to London for the launch, and Tammy said, which hotel are you staying at? So in the multi-company group, I was like, hey, what's recommended hotels? Like within a minute we had an answer.
Yeah, it's great.
And then I gave her the answer and she didn't know where I got the answer from. It's very quick. But part of that is because the groups are like Facebook posts, it's very easy for new people to get up to speed, right? So a lot of chat tools out there kind of feels like you're reading log files.
Yeah.
And if you weren't there at the time, I've got to scroll through.
Yeah, it's hard to search for the historical
search and find things, and if you're not on the machine at the time, you're kind of not part of the conversation. Whereas, because there's that 2-level, you can chat with somebody synchronously in a room or individually, but you've got the posts, right? So we're posting dashboards and sales numbers and product roadmaps and getting input from team members. So there's a good piece, but maybe if there are any questions or let's.
So I guess one thing that, since I don't use Facebook at work, didn't see it, I just have Facebook, the normal Facebook as reference. I am familiar with Yammer. I came also from Jive, so I'm familiar with Jive as well. And obviously I'm with of Slack. And my question is then, what really is the There are different, when people say these type of tools, each one might be thinking of different things in terms of what are the actual use cases. And I'm wondering right now, what the tool, I don't know what's the future, but right now what are you targeting or you think is the real use case for Facebook at work in terms of like, obviously so real-time Slack, whatever you're doing, real-time communication, it's one aspect. A news feed and a blog is a different use case, which is obviously can be done correctly. Collaboration externally is also great in terms of groups, but there's also things like intranet and in terms of document collaboration. And I wonder if is Facebook at work in that domain, or it even tries to be there, even maybe via integrations, or it's out of scope, or?
That's a big question. Many questions in one. So I'll answer the first one. I think the biggest opportunity and what would differentiate is the end user experience, right? The fact that it's so familiar with what people are used to using, and the mobile experience, it works so well that the best use case is to connect all employees, both that don't have a desk in front of them or that are mobile in the field, right? So I think that's the best, the most attractive, quick to adopt use case is connecting to your field.
Yeah, I mean, there's some interesting use cases. Construction company in Malaysia, that their teams that are working on construction have a group and they take pictures of the building that they're physically building. They don't write email.
There's a lot
So
of
there's a lot of really interesting
non-for-profits, like we have a lot of crisis communications use cases that are resonating across the globe. Something goes wrong, immediately everybody gets access because everybody at least gets the information on their mobile device as well.
Yeah. One of the things I've really been enjoying with it is the fact that you can use threaded comments. So a lot of these tools like Slack and HipChat, you're really doing one after the other. But the fact that you can do threaded comments in workplaces,
it keeps
the whole thing
context,
scale that much
right?
better.
Yeah, it helps with context creation. Other use cases that we see taking off right away are the typical, right? Internal communications. It's engaging with your employees through an announcement type of group where we can do live sessions. That's pretty cool. It's like you have the president, not just doing an Ask Me Anything where you have to type a question and somebody answers. The executive is doing a live session and people are commenting and loving and so that's really powerful. And then the conversation can continue after the live session has finished.
Yeah, so we have 4 offices between here, Sydney, Chile.
Yeah.
They'll argue that they invented the Pisco.
Oh, don't get me started on that.
And
we can have a whole user group on that.
and Malaysia. And so previously I was doing like 4 monthly company meetings, like one for every office.
Right.
Now we live stream one.
Yeah.
And everyone gets the information at the same time. So there's not like, okay, they found out first before us. And we also create a poll. So people ask questions that they want answered. And they can get voted up and crowdsourced. So I think I felt that once we hit 150 people as a company, I started forgetting names. Now I feel like I know everybody again because I'm seeing faces and seeing things in a much more dynamic way. And the other way I did that was when I go to the offices, I take pictures of the teams and they all start tagging each other.
That's great.
So you start to work out who is who as well. So
it's like a joint effort to engage with each other. To answer your other question around intranet, it's funny. So the intranet is, I think it's an evolving concept too, right? I think what we thought of an internet in the past is no longer what it should be, right? In the past, it's like the one place where you kind of start your day. And that's what Workplace wants to be, is a place that you start your day to get work done and connect with people and connect with the content that you want. So in terms of the integrations roadmap, believe me that Facebook is 100% committed to working on that. Today, we may not have those out-of-the-box integrations, but I know that the team is working on building the typical integrations with the major, companies that people do business with. And get work done.
My take is I think for the last 20 years, consulting companies have been making a lot of money re-implementing the intranet every year. Right? We have a new intranet, SharePoint or whatever it is. Let's just I think intranet projects are finished because we now have a communications platform that everyone can be connected to, and the world's brains should be focused on bigger problems now, not re-implementing the intranet.
Right, people consume information in different ways.
Who loves their intranet? Who's ever built an intranet? Who's ever had someone else build them an intranet that they love? It's usually
I love the Jive.
But were you on the team that built the intranet?
No, what do you mean? No,
like usually the only team that likes the intranet are the team that built it.
So I'll tell you what I mean by intranet, because as you say, it's very like, what do you mean? So it's the place that you actually collaborate around the work, right? And that's what I'm saying. So obviously, the importance of having one place for communicating executive communication or collaborating with your customers is important. But also, when I joined now the startup, the first thing I noticed is that, they're using Google Docs, but Google is not an intranet. And
you can't connect the dots, right?
You can collaborate on the document, but you can't truly collaborate on a project
or a concept or an idea. Or,
exactly, right? So there's nothing that you need something to glue it together. That's why I mentioned the word integration in terms of it's okay. I don't mind right now if Facebook doesn't need to be the Google Docs or the Office, but you do need something to be that glue. And by that I mean the intranet, the glue around collaboration around the project. Where do you the PMs and the
I think it's more
collaborate around?
So I would say yes to that, because I see it every day and I see it with customers. It's just naturally, right? You start a project with people and then content follows.
Yeah.
But most projects are about scheduling people and working, answering questions, and alignment on objectives. And then your deliverables, right? What is it that you're trying to do? And depending on what project you're working, sometimes you need to do testing, you need to do polls. Like and if you have people working outside of your team in the same company, it works fine. But sometimes you're working with vendors that are contractors, right? So that's where the multi-company groups comes in so handy, because you can easily bring that into the fold as well.
And then in the article I wrote was about a lot of current intranet solutions can connect the head office with all the white collar workers who are behind the computers, and they don't connect to the hands and the eyes and the ears of the organizations who are out there. And really the people closest to the action have the best sense of what's going on, and the ability to relay that back quickly makes that whole cycle work a lot better, right? So I think for that, that's where for us it was like, wow. When I was in London last week, we had a series of team meetings with different people at Facebook. And I've got an engineering team in Malaysia that's building add-ons and extensions, right? And we were interviewing the engineering team. We're having a meeting, and I said, hold on. And I put the tripod on my phone, and we live streamed the meeting, right? We had 15 engineers from Sydney and Malaysia connect, asking me questions to ask Simon.
Nice.
So he could answer the questions. And they were getting their API questions and other things done.
Yeah.
I was a conduit. They get the voice of the customer or the partner.
Yeah.
They feel immediate connection. And you know what? I don't have to take any notes. Right? I don't have to meeting minutes. Like, how many times do you go out and visit somebody and you come back and say, I gotta tell you all this, and you can't put that into words for somebody to read and go, yeah, whatever. But all the engineers were in and on and connected, and they were liking and loving and all that kind of stuff. So that's another use case, interviewing customers, partners, where I think for us it's been trying to educate our team and our customers that it's not about social promotion, it's just about communication.
Yeah.
Right? And applying the technology the right way to solve real problems. And that's a shift that people will make. So.
Usually intranets come in at a place where a company's grown to a certain stage and they can't communicate in the normal means that they have been. What is that tipping point that you see companies would be interested in Workplace?
Oh gosh, we see companies of all sizes. And especially now, because I came in, I'm head of customer success for the Americas, and my focus really is to make sure that all of the customers that have Workplace are adopting it and and growing and being successful with it. And I see customers of small businesses, and I think where large companies, what we do encourage, and this is not just Workplace, but this is also from my previous experience, that often large companies want to do these phased rollout, right? They want to create employee engagement, they want to create they want to change the way they engage with employees, but they don't connect all of them for months. They do a pilot, then they do a phase 1, then they do a phase 2, whereas at the end of the day, you lose the momentum, and people are not part of connecting with each other right away. So one of the things that we're doing is we're really working with large customers, and all customers, but really the large ones, is a 2-phase, if they need a phase approach. And one is what we call the champions phase, and it's just to seed content, right? So it's like going to a house, you're putting the furniture in. Some furniture, right? Before you move in, before the family comes in to move. And then the next phase is just the entire organization of people. And we've seen immediate feedback. And what happens is you can do your comms in a phased approach. You can still get to everybody.
It would be similar to saying we're going to roll out a phone system to half the company, right? Because you can't call everybody.
Right.
Right. So
and then you can explain how to best use a telephone. Yeah. But everybody already has it. And it allows people who are early adopters to get it and help their peers, right? It also allows for that organic, I would call it citizenship, to happen where the community helps each other. It's not depending on that centralized control and command type of rollout. So that's one of the things that where I see a huge shift in the way it's being approached at workplace, that I think it's actually going to work really well. I don't know,
So you don't need,
does
so you
that
don't
answer
need
your question a
400,
little
you don't
bit?
need 400 consultants for 6 months?
Maybe for other things. But yeah, I don't know if there is a tipping point per se in the companies, but I do see for large organizations, we're doing that.
Thank you.
I can talk all night, so I'm just pausing for
No, I'm
questions.
curious.
So,
I'm curious.
We want to make
So,
sure we give everyone as much value as they can. So.
How do you see workplace being used at your organizations, or what some questions that you like to bring?
So I have an observation from this evening.
Yeah.
I was thinking to myself, how many people can you really have in a group chat versus in a group post? You know, group
Right.
post goes out to hundreds, that's fine. Group chat, what's the realistic limit? So I went to the source of truth and asked my 17-year-old son how many people he can talk with in a group text.
Yeah.
And he said less than 10. If you're not doing threaded comments, that's about your sort of maximum
That's
number
great.
where all your friends.
Yeah, I guess how many people would be in a room that you would have a
Yeah.
conversation with
Right.
before it turns into a mess?
Right.
Right.
So that was an interesting
Yeah.
guideline for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
So another interesting one that we talk about internally just in our exec meeting today was the tools are the same as public Facebook, but how we use them is different.
Yeah.
So, you know,
That's great.
we don't post for social promotion, and people don't like because they socially like something.
Right.
The like is kind of like
An
the acknowledgement that
Yeah.
I got it. So if I went up to Alan and said, Alan, can you pour me a glass of wine?
Yeah.
Because Alan's drinking wine, right? And Alan goes, yeah, sure, I got it, right? That's
Yeah.
that's a social norm. That I got it is really the like in workplace.
Yeah.
So when someone sends out a report, we like it to acknowledge, thanks, I've got it.
Yeah.
Not to, we might love it if it was like,
Yeah.
wow, the report shows the sales numbers are excellent, right?
Exactly.
But the like we're actually using as a way to,
Yeah.
like eye contact, thanks,
Yeah.
right, as an appreciation that something's happening.
That you're interested in.
Yeah, or that you recognize that somebody
Yeah.
did something and you want it. And that's a lot different than on the, the
Right.
social media where it's like you like something because it's funny or what have you.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, and I think, and that's, you hit on a point that I always emphasize, right? One of the things that we say, hey, training for workplace, it's on the tool and how to use a tool, it's very, very short, like almost none, because if people have used Facebook in the past, it's an easy tool to learn. But the training happens in terms of how to best use workplace for
Yeah.
getting work done. So it's on the use cases, right?
So it's like, how do I manage my team? How do I
Exactly.
best collaborate?
And that's
How do I-
really
yeah.
a much more interesting conversation to have with people in their team. Instead of, here's where you click, it's like, just play with it. You can't really break it. But let's talk about how you can get work done, right? Like, how do you manage projects today? Or how do you converse with your team? Or how do you plan events or execute events or gather feedback from other colleagues or do polls? I mean, there's so many open-ended questions you could start with, and understanding what they do today and how they can transfer that into a new way of working.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you had any pushback or issues with adoption in companies that maybe are outside the tech sector and with individuals that maybe do not understand that these are two completely separate tools, and they have issues maybe with their privacy, and workers out in the field thinking, hey, now my employer will be able to look at my Facebook profile and my pictures getting drunk with my friends, and that in some way limiting adoption, and if so, what have you done to overcome that?
That's a great question, and we usually get those types of questions at the very beginning, actually, when we are just discussing customers joining workplace. So obviously, the two separate products, right? It starts with you actually have to create a brand new profile in workplace. the two shall never meet in that sense. Your data is the data. And actually, Facebook is extremely disciplined about data privacy. I know we get, published, but now being an employee, it's amazing the work that the company does to make sure every employee is educated and abides by all the privacy rules and regulations. That and the system also, like we have a trust site where it's public, so you actually can do workplace/trust, and you get reports, right? Or SOC and security reports, so you can, for the IT team, they can educate. But in terms of the pushback, it's literally education. It's communication, right? So we do provide customers with our frequently asked questions and how they can actually see that their data is separate. And in terms of how do I post so my boss is not embarrassed by me posting. Obviously, you don't want to post drunk pictures on workplace, right? That's where you have, then I call them, social media guidelines, right? Again, that's part of education.
But it's the same as any communication at work,
exactly.
right? And
yeah.
so,
Sorry, I'm just wondering about
the
maybe outside
stigma?
the tech sector that do not truly understand this separation.
Absolutely.
The end user, not an IT department.
I would say also a lot of those end users previously may not even have had any system and don't do any communication at all back to head office or what's there. We had a couple of users who were like confused at the beginning.
Right.
And what we said to them is, okay, you create your profile just with your first name. Right.
Well, and now with the rebrand, right, it's visually different. There's a different icon, a different profile. So visual cues to indicate is a separate system or a separate profile. So I think that has also helped minimize, or it helps explain, now there's a different network altogether. But that is a good question. It comes up. So we do educate. But
how much of that do you think is generational, right? So will there be a time in 5 years' time where people going for a job will say, look, this is like a company that's using a fax machine when the internet came out. I want to work in a company that's using technology to collaborate. Yeah. And by then, everything's VR, AR, glasses, Oculus, all the other things that come with it, right? And
it's so funny. I think definitely.
Do I want to be sending faxes back then? So
one of the things, and this is something I've discovered, is that obviously the new generations demand more dynamic. They want to not have to change the way they communicate just because they join a corporation, right? If they communicate using chat and visual and mobile, and they're, they can plan trips with 10 friends in a matter of minutes because they go to different sites and get recommendations from other people. It's like, I want to have that kind of experience at work. But I actually find that it's not an age thing, it's an attitude thing, and it's just
I go through that myself, right? I would say, we've used a lot of different chat tools. A year ago, I would not think about putting emojis in my chat messages. Now, I'm full of emojis. Like, it's a natural way to communicate, right? But when you first look at it, you're like, this is a toy. Now we're full of emojis. I'm full of, we're laughing at some of the GIF files that we send around and to express an emotion, like, what the hell are you thinking, right? And what that does is
creates an informality.
It just creates a connection with the team. And some of the emojis and GIF files I get from your team
we have a wide, and one of the things is that Workplace provides you with a lot of options for emojis. And one of the things, coming from Peru, what I loved, it was like the Spanish speaking emoji. It's like, caramba, and they have this like, oh my god, I can express in my language. And they have the different language emojis, which I thought was clever.
So for the techies and so forth, so things that excite me is, messenger bots. So imagine you're onboarding or doing training and learning, and you've got a bot in there that's helping you find things in different systems, because we always need help finding things.
Yeah.
And you've got, if anyone saw Mark Zuckerberg's Oculus keynote probably 3 weeks ago now, where there was a version of Messenger that everyone was virtually in the same room with the glasses on talking, right? And you start layering that technology on top of work chat. So now we can have a virtual meeting or a webinar or what have you. I imagine within a year we will be running, like we're live streaming this.
We're gonna have
right
our
now,
user group.
but we're gonna have the user group on chat with Oculus, and like, you know, this is
sky's
like the base
limit.
platform
Yeah.
for communication, where a lot of these things are going to be built on top of, and that for me is what's really exciting as well.
What are you guys excited about?
So-
Yeah.
So who create the profile and who owns the profile?
Who owns the profile and who creates the profile? So it
For
depends
the
how you,
workplace, right?
for workplace.
Yeah.
So it depends how you invite. So it depends. You can have the IT team or whoever is the admin of your network invite people and preload based on, if you have a directory, preload some of the data into the profile. Or you can just load their email and have the user update their information, post their profile picture into the profile.
Does this profile owned by Facebook or owned by this individual or owned by the company that you are deploying?
All the data in your network is owned by the company that has Workplace. So we don't own any of your data, absolutely nothing.
I think maybe that's one way of
Right.
address. I don't know, but I'm assuming to address that question is when you leave your work, you don't get to take your profile with you,
Right.
correct?
Right, like all the stuff that you've shared for work. Yeah,
It's like an email
that
box.
You uploaded,
absolutely.
It stays there.
It stays there. But that happens today too, right? All when you go
It's
into
like your email account or
Yeah.
your Slack account or.
But
Yeah.
your
Well,
name-
like
your
the
name
question
would be
if you're collaborating, so you can be,
Yeah.
because you have groups that go across the organization boundaries. So I'm collaborating with the organization A, with organization B,
Yes.
organization C. Do I have one profile? Do I have multiple profiles?
one profile. Because you're
Who
the
owns that one?
The company.
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 Yes,
So
of
I'm
course.
collaborating on
You're
behalf.
representing
Okay.
It's like your email.
company, yeah.
When,
Right, because your profile starts your email address.
Yeah.
When think about it, if when you leave that company, do you expect having access to the group that communicates with external customers?
Email.
If it's business related. no.
Yeah, you should lose that access, right?
I just think who pays the money, who paid for that account? Not that-
So it
Yeah,
ties into
I'm
it can
sure.
tie into Active Directory.
And that's happened to me, right? You can actually join back into that group representing another company. You just happen to work with the same organization. So I'm sure you'll be back from, with another company workplace profile. But yeah, that all the discussions that you did as that representative of that organization is owned by the organization. Does that
In your
answer your
case,
question?
once you joined, now the old profile that we're using, now you're using this one because we are now internal to Facebook, right? We have a different profile now.
Yeah, so my Facebook even has a different picture.
No, personal Facebook. But
Right,
you
right.
said that you were collaborating with your team even before you joined because they invited you, so you were part of the group.
Yeah, so I use my personal Facebook profile to do
okay.
that, yeah.
Okay, so that's
But good question. Yeah. Once I joined Workplace, I created my Workplace profile, uploaded a separate picture, all that good stuff.
And does
Yeah.
that profile act as your business card? So can you share across to anyone in that workplace space?
So in a way, yes, it's got information about what department I work with. It has information about my contact information. So in essence, people within my organization can hover over my name and contact me, message me. And really, now I find very few people pick up the phone to call. They just like work chat me quickly for like a quick
Yep.
question, or they just send me a message. or post.
Within the organization, that's fine. But let's say if you go to a trade show or you go to other public place, let's say you want to
I
share
use-
Yeah, no.
No, I use LinkedIn for that. Like, like you can just go to LinkedIn and look at my profile to see who I am. But if I am on a trade show and that trade show happens to have a multi-company group where I've been collaborating with some of the vendors there, yes, so absolutely, they would use my profile as my calling card, for example. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Good questions.
Yeah.
How's the commercial model currently structured?
Commercial model, like the pricing?
Yeah.
So it's very simple.
It's on their website. It's on the
It's on their
workplace
website,
website.
yeah.
But
So it's like
$3, $2, or $1,
yes,
depending on your
and
size.
depending on your size.
So it's
Per
per active user per month.
Per active user per month, exactly.
So-
Which to me, it's wonderful because we're really committed to adoption. That is our measure of success, is adoption.
In
and
adoption, that's, I'm assuming that the chat, the real-time communication is part of it, and also posting. And
Yes.
do you see, it's probably very early, but you had a long beta period. Do you see that there's actually, and part of the customer success, is there a challenge of like educating customers when and how to use the real-time communication versus the, what do you call the post-async type of communication, posting to a group? And do they like, is there some tension or cannibalization between those two different channels? And it's how to...
So good question. I've yet to see that or to learn from that conflict. But people and customers always want to hear examples, right? When do I use what? More often than not, the early adopters within those organizations teach the others based on these aha moments I have. Oh my God, I just used that and I was able to, and we have these moments ourselves as well. I remember my boss, she goes, she has her leadership meeting every Monday, really early morning, because we have companies, an office in Singapore and one in London. So they started with chat in terms of just quick updates, and then they got into a conversation that they needed to make a decision on. And they literally clicked call, and they had everybody on a conference call in that. And she was like floored. She goes, Ursula, it was amazing. So it was like, when you hear those stories and you hear the use case, and now I take the example, if I'm ever in that scenario, that's probably the behavior, how I'm going to use that functionality, right? So do we give guidance to our customers? Absolutely yes. Have I seen people feeling conflicted? Yeah, there's always going to be people that are posting too much on chat, post lengthy conversations, but there's people that regulate each other and say, hey, actually, that is a really good for a post. I would love for you to post that on our group, right?
Or if someone's on a post and they keep typing one sentence, enter, and
Exactly.
they're like, hold on. Like, settle
Take
down.
the chat.
Slow down.
Let's
breathe,
have a chat.
Breathe.
Exactly. So I think you will always have moments where that may happen, but your peers will regulate you. And
We have some interesting use cases that come up is, we create a group for me with each one of my reports. I have a group, a private secret group for one-on-one.
Messenger group or?
No, like a Facebook group.
Yeah.
And it's a one-on-one group just between me and my report. So we have an ongoing agenda of items.
yeah, I do that
And
too.
because we work over 4 countries, and if I'm waiting for a plane, I'm going through, like, this is the beauty of this is the news feed is there. At any time you can connect, and it's not like, okay, well, I have to load up the intranet and try and work out what's going on, or apps crash or anything like that. They've figured out the mobile
do
thing,
you have
right?
any tips for how to guide people to what is the right time? Because people are very
we have
tend to go to the shortest, I guess the easiest way to get quick gratification is like, oh, let's just chat and it's real time and I expect somebody to answer.
Yeah.
And it's hard sometimes to convince them at the value of like, post it there, people will get to it. It's also easier to then go and digest it if you are like in different time zone. For example, I work with different time zones as well. Slack is terrible for them. They wake up and it's like...
you wake up and you got 3
Christmas
megabytes
tree.
of log files,
You
right?
need to scroll 20 pages, right? So it's very...
Yes.
But for the people that are here in the US, it's like, oh, the easiest thing is to mention that guy and I'm done.
Yeah.
So Bill, who's at the back, is one of our training authors. So we have a series of training courses that are short, a couple of hours each, on targeted at different personas in the system. And our relationship with Facebook is to help that adoption, and add all those little bits that help people be successful with their deployments. So that's what we do. So.
Yeah, and that's stuff that I would say we have and we can provide, but there's also a lot of that guidelines in also social media outside of Facebook.
Yeah, a lot of it's
or
organic, and you'll.
And so I think it's easy to create something like that internally. We provide that guidance. Our partners are providing that guidance, education, right? Tips and tricks on how to engage on your network, on your community. Yeah, absolutely.
So this is more of an open thought, and I'm just like wondering, where would like WhatsApp fit like in the roadmap for workplace? And I'm saying this because in some regions of the world, and I have seen it anecdotally, like people are actually using WhatsApp for business purposes, either within the company or with partners, right?
So WhatsApp, it's got 1 billion users, and I would say everywhere in the world outside of the US, it's a WhatsApp world.
Our engineering team in Malaysia has WhatsApp groups.
I would say I don't think it's a competing, but what happens is there are going to be people that use WhatsApp and are not on Workplace. So it has its use case. But as more people see the value and have Workplace and are conducting their business, Messenger is super user friendly as well. So they'll just start using that as well. I don't see a competing.
But there's also no rule that says you can't do that.
Right.
It's just a communication medium. So I think.
But that is a great question, right? Because that same discourse is happening on the public-facing Messenger versus WhatsApp, and we see growth on both actually.
And even other tools. I mean, we have some of our DevOps teams using HipChat. They love it. It's integrated into all their processes. I mean, leave it. There's no need to, right? But at a CEO level, with a large organization, hundreds of thousands of people, they may not want to use a chat. They want to maybe do live streaming
video. You don't
video,
need to have
right?
their phone, right? Like in WhatsApp, you need to know their mobile phone to add them, right? In Facebook, you can just see if they're available and just ping them. Yeah. And so you don't need to have their phone number. It's just their email address. That's all you need, which is wonderful because you can connect to anyone as well.
Okay, I'm getting the wind up from Bill. So
we've got about 45 minutes. So
3 hours to go? No. So
I was thinking just a few more questions,
Let's take a couple of questions and then we can just do informal.
Yeah, because I love to get your thoughts, your feedback, what you're thinking. But you had a question in the back.
I just had a thought. You say Workplace is a tool to get work done, and as we see these tools come into the marketplace, they also start appearing on resumes as a skill set.
Yes.
Proud of, like Excel, PowerPoint. So are we going to see Workplace start becoming that skill that starts showing up?
I'm hoping so. That's one of my, and not Workplace as a skill set, but if you think about.
So Workplace is an expectation.
We call it like a Workplace Chief Community Officer, right? I think that there is a lot of careers that are available to like community management, social media. I think, we have a social media manager in the group who become experts in terms of connecting people. And I think that is definitely a skill set that becomes, and it's going to be developed. And I see a lot of potential in that, absolutely. Now, whether it's official today at Facebook, no, but that's something that we would like to develop into. And I know that you guys are working on just skill sets, right? Like.
Yeah, what do people need to do to be successful?
Yeah,
I mean, some of it, obviously, if it's like, how do I use a phone?
Yeah.
You don't need to put that on your resume, but.
Well, but I think too is there's a lot of training for executives that happen.
How to lead using this platform.
Absolutely, and that's a brand new skill set, right? It's it's being a dynamic leader, right?
Yeah. But just yesterday, I just think of how the world's evolved, right? Mm-hmm. Someone called me and I picked it up and he's like, Rob, I've been trying to get through to you, but your voicemail box was full, right? And you just think. What's the best way to get in touch with them, like Messenger, right? Just it's just how quickly the world moves when there are still technologies out there where your voicemail box is full, right? And still a lot of companies operate with technology like that. So anyway, we might switch to informal.
Yeah, let's
end
everyone
get a drink
chat network and get some chips.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming here on debate night. So everyone's itching to see who won the debate.
Fact checks now.
Fact checked. And where will you go right away to see what's happening? It'll be on your.
Yeah.
Oh, it won't be on your intranet.
Right. I get all my news from Facebook and visit our
So I think
webpage.
one of the
Thank
things
you.
that you were saying, delete that, yeah.
So thank you, Ursula, for that. So everyone, Pisco is from Peru.
Yes. Exactly.
Beyond that.
I mean, there is Chilean pisco, but
We have an office in Santiago, so it's
Peruvian pisco sour is much better than a chili.